In this video, we're going to look at circles. Let's start out with the definition. A circle is a set of points in a plane that are located a fixed distance, called the radius, from a given point in the plane, called the center. So all of these points are the same distance from the center, and that distance we call the radius. So easy. We call the center, we use the center with a big C, but the letters that we are going to use for X and Y are H and K. We're going to use the letter R for radius. I also want you to recall that the distance all the way across the circle is the diameter. Remember, the diameter goes through the center, and the radius is half of the diameter. So let's go to the definition. It's a set of points that are a fixed distance. Our last video we talked about the distance formula, the Pythagorean theorem. Well, that's exactly what the equation of a circle is. A squared plus B squared equals C squared. It's the distance. So these are X values, those are Y values, and we're going to get our radius squared. Do we need to memorize that? Yes, we do. Let's look at our first example. We want to write the equation of the circle in standard form, given our center and given our radius. We just want to fill in this equation, or this formula. So our center is H and K. So we have X minus 2 squared plus Y minus a negative 1 squared equals 4 squared. That's all you have to do, is just fill in H, K, and R. And then just make it a little bit prettier. So this is X minus 2 squared, Y plus 1 squared equals 16. Now before we go any further, I want you to kind of notice that this is X minus 2 and we had positive 2, Y plus 1 and we had a minus 1. And that is because this formula has that minus sign, because you know we're going to go backwards here in just a minute. Okay, again, we're just going to practice. This is H and K, this is R. So we have X minus a negative 5 squared plus Y minus 3 squared equals 3 times the square root of 2 squared. So making it a little bit prettier. Then you're going to go, ooh, I don't know how to do that. So squaring means just to multiply it times itself. So 3 times 3 is 9. The square root of 2 times the square root of 2 is 2. That's 18. Okay, or you could have rearranged 3 times the square root of 2 times the square root of 2. Not distributing, just multiplying. That's 9 times 2 is 18. That is your formula. Very easy. So now we're asked to go backwards. Give the center and radius of the circle. So you can set those equal to 0 if that helps. So my X coordinate of my center is negative 1. My Y coordinate is 4. So my center is negative 1, 4. Remember, this is R squared. So you have to take the square root, and you only have to worry about the positive because it's a distance. So that's your center, that's your radius. Next one just as easy, but you're going, oh, but there's not a number there. Well, that would be the same as X minus 0 squared. So my X coordinate, or H, is 0, where here I would have negative 3. So that is K. So my center is 0, negative 3. And yes, if you can just look at it and write down the answer, that would be awesome. Okay, so I have R squared is equal to 20. I need to take the square root and simplify it, and that's 2 times the square root of 5. Remember, this is 4 times 5. The square root of 4 is 2. Now we're getting to something a little bit more complicated. This certainly does not look like those other two answers, those other two equations, because it's not in standard form. So we're going to have to do what's called complete the square. And if you follow my steps, it'll be easy. So I want you to put your x's together and draw a blank. I want you to put your y's together and draw a blank. And then any constant, move to the other side, so I've got to subtract 6 and add 2 blanks. Whatever you do on the left-hand side, you do to the right-hand side. Now, to complete the square, you want to take half of that number, put it in your blank, and square it. Half of this number, oops, that's positive 4, and square it. And whatever you put in these blanks, you put in the blanks on the other side. Now what you have done is you've created a perfect square trinomial. Now, you don't have to write that stuff out, but that's what you've created. And when you factor it, that's going to be x plus 1 quantity squared. So this is going to be y plus 4 quantity squared. So whatever half of this number is goes in your parenthesis, including the sign. So let's see, let's just do some arithmetic here. That's negative 6 plus 1 plus 16, I believe. So what is that, 11? So now that's in standard form, but I haven't answered the question. Give the center and the radius. So my center is negative 1, negative 4. Remember, it's going to be just the opposite. And my radius is going to be the square root of 11, which I cannot simplify. So again, if it's in standard form, you can just write down the answer. But usually you have to complete the square. So let's practice again. So again, writing down our x's, draw a blank. Our y's, and draw a blank. Move my constant to the other side. This time I'm going to add 19 and blanks. Half of this number goes in the blank and we square it. And I'm just going to go ahead and say that's 16. But I want to write negative 4. You're going to see here in a minute. And then this is negative 1 squared, which is positive 1. So now when I write it in standard form, I just take my x and again my negative 4, my y and my negative 1. And now when I add that together, I believe I get 36. So now I can say my center is positive 4, positive 1, and my radius is 6 because the square root of 36 is 6. Pretty easy. I'm not going to give you anything that has fractions, so just follow the examples. Well, now they're going to ask us to find an equation in standard form of the circle that satisfies the given conditions. So I have my center, HK, so that's easy. But tangent to the x-axis, what's going on there? Well, let's see. What if I drew my axis here? Okay, so here's my x, here's my y. My center is 1, 2, 3, 4, negative 2. So that means that my circle has to just touch the x-axis. How can it just touch it? It means it's got to be perpendicular. So my distance here is going to be my radius. So everything that's 2 units apart, and I'm not going to, let's see how good I can draw a circle here. That's what it would look like. So just looking at the graph, I know my radius is 2. My center is 4, negative 2. So I'd have x minus 4 squared plus y plus 2. Remember that opposite, because of my formula, has those minus signs in it. And then my radius squared is 4. Just writing down the answer by drawing a picture. Okay, so I have a center of negative 3, 5, and tangent this time to the y-axis. So let's see, this is x, this is y, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there's my center. But I need to be tangent to the y-axis. So that means my radius is a perpendicular distance. I'm not going to draw the whole circle, but, well, I'm going to try. But that's my radius, and I can just count. My radius is 3. So I have x plus 3 squared plus y minus 5 squared equals 3 squared. Now if you can just visualize that, like a lot of people can, and just write down the answer, I have no problem with that because there's really not any way to give partial credit. But that's what it means by being tangent, that you just touch it at one point. Okay, so we have center at the origin. Origin, that means 0, 0. But it passes through the point 4, 1. So think, what two things do I need? I need my center, which is h and k. So they gave me that. That's 0, 0. But I need my radius. I don't have that. So again, I'm a visual person. So here's my origin. That's my center. And it passes through the point 4, 1. So I'd have a circle, and that would be my radius. How do I find that? I use my distance formula. Distance. So my distance is also going to be my radius. So I'm going to subtract my x values, and I'm going to subtract my y values, and that's why we learn the distance formula first. So I have 16 plus 1, that's 17. So my radius is the square root of 17. But I need an equation of the circle. So I have x minus 0 squared plus y minus 0 squared equals this squared. Not very hard. The next one gets a little bit harder, but not much. Again, they give me h and k, and they give me a point. But just like on this last one, I found the distance between the center and the point. That's what I need to do. The distance, let me just go ahead and write that out. The distance between the 2 points will equal the radius. So I'm going to find the distance, which is my radius. So I'm going to subtract my x values and subtract my y values. So 7 minus and minus 3 is plus. So my distance, which equals my radius, that's going to be 25. That's 100. And I'm not going to simplify that. Why? Because when I square it in my equation, I'm just going to get rid of the square root. Makes it really easy. So I have x minus 6 squared, because that's h, plus y minus k squared. And then square that. That's how you find the equation of the circle. Our last two examples are a little bit harder because this time we're talking about the endpoints of the diameter. So what two things? I need the center and the radius. I have neither. So if you just, again, visually, so negative 8, 1 would be over here. And let's see, 2, 7 would be somewhere there. And that's the diameter. Well, what's happening in the middle of the diameter? That would be my center. I need to find the midpoint. So my center is going to be the midpoint of my diameter. So we need to go back and look at our notes. What's our midpoint formula? It's where we add those. So my center is negative 8 plus 2 divided by 2, and 1 plus 7 divided by 2. So that's negative 6 divided by 2, 8 divided by 2. So that is my center. That's my h and k. Do I have my radius? No, I do not. So now I'm going to find my radius. So I can use the distance between those 2 points or those 2 points. I think I'm going to choose those, less negatives. So my distance is my radius. So I'm going to say negative 3 minus 2 squared and 4 minus 7 squared. So that's negative 5 squared. That's negative 3 squared. And that's the square root of 34. And remember, I'm writing the equation of the circle, so I need r squared. So I don't really need to simplify that square root. And I don't think you can simplify it anyway. So we would have our center. So I have x minus a minus 3 squared plus y minus k squared equals our radius squared. Let's just give it a go for one more. Okay, so I need to find my center, which is my midpoint. Oops. Let's see, then I have negative 8 plus 0 divided by 2. So that's negative 12 over 2, negative 8 over 2. I'm just going to check my arithmetic, going pretty fast. Remember, I'm adding and dividing by 2. That looks good. Okay, that's my center. So now my radius is the distance between my center and one of those points. So I think I'm going to take my center and I'm going to use that. 0 always seems to be pretty easy. So I'm going to take negative 6 minus a negative 3 and negative 4 minus 0. Ooh, so that's a lot of negatives. So I have negative 6 plus 3. That's negative 3 squared is 9. And then that's going to be negative 4, which is 16. So I know the square root of 25 is 5, but I'm just going to, again, leave it like that. Write my equation of my circle. So I have x minus a negative 6 squared, y minus a negative 4 squared equals my radius squared. So again, remember you need a center and the radius to find an equation of a circle.